Okay, good morning. Hi there. This is David Null on the Homestead at the Little Clockney River Hermitage, and it is January the 21st, 2018. And I want to say good morning to y'all. And I hate glare in the glasses on the screen. Uh, my apologies always early on. Google never treats me right. Every time I try to sign into this YouTube thing, it does me different on this Google Chrome. Uh, I won't go there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. My location is Southwest Georgia in the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, etc. I hope you all are having a very well and good 2018 so far. Um, I'm hoping with my heart to yours that things will be better for you. I think things have already gotten better, but there are things that I wanted to bring up because they were heavy on my heart and had to get them off my chest because I haven't been able to go to sleep. And it's 8:15 in the morning and on a Tuesday. And so I thought I would just go ahead and get these things off my mind. I've been having issues with way too much sleep lately. And at 65 years old, some would say, oh, but that's natural. No, not for 3 or 4 days at a time. And not being able to remember anything and then forgetting that you haven't paid a bill and no, that's not good. When was the last time I fed the chickens? I mean, little things like that. It's important. I can't just clock out for 2 or 3 days entirely. There are minor things I have to deal with, but still. So been having a lot of issues with that. Now, would like to relate that I have I have narrowed it down to nothing more than the changes in the cosmos and the galaxy and the solar system, and because there's nothing else that would cause me to want to sleep, except for the things that they're spraying in the sky and dropping down on us. And I have been in chat rooms and have listened, watched, and in a way, kind of been a lurker. I do contribute when I can, and that's part of the reason for making this little video this morning. It had to do with some chatting I was doing, trying to make a positive force in this rather negative thinking universe at the moment, with so much weirdness going on and everything. It's hard for anybody to really I don't know what's going on, blah blah blah. And I agree. I wake up one day and go, I don't even know if I'm on the right planet. I've seen the stars be inverted. I've seen the sun come up in places that from my house that I should not be seeing the sun come up at. I've seen the moon come up and go down in weird places. And so with that said, the last few years has just been plain weird, and most people feel that way. Now, what I wish to discuss are words, our language, words, how we use our language, how we use our words. And in my walk of life of trying to keep myself between the ditches, one side's got alligators and the other side's got crocodiles. I'd rather have the alligators, but we won't go there. Crocodiles are vicious. Alligators, not so much. So the point I want to make is that I was listening to someone have a chat. Now, to the point, this person had the flu. I didn't know this, but had already been online for like an hour and a half. And so I come in late in the conversation. And so just kind of picked up with a little bit of lightheartedness. I wasn't like cracking jokes or making wisecracks, but I was trying to be lighthearted and not so, even though the subject was, I wasn't trying to get so down deep. So I was making little short sentences that would just convey, like, for example, you know, when we go to sleep, our day doesn't end. And I have had end in quotation marks or quotes anyway. And so the the person reading it mistook what I wrote as that I was trying to, make some kind of grand statement. Actually, what I was doing the thought had entered my mind for a lot of people that when you go to sleep, the world stops and it starts back up then when you wake up the next morning or evening or whatever your shift is, right? And so my point to the statement was, just because you go to sleep, the world keeps going and things happen in other people's lives, and so life goes on. And in our dream, I wasn't even trying to discuss dream state. I was thinking of a wakefulness. So many people, when they go to sleep, just, oh, tomorrow's another day, okie dokie. But in a lot of ways, they think, when I go to sleep, whatever, the rest of the world is kind of turned off in their mind. And that's where my thought was. However, that little statement led the conversation into, when we go to sleep, are we asleep? Do we dream? What are our dreams? And it went on a totally different tangent than my original intent. And my intent was just to make the statement that the day continues after we go to sleep at night for other people on the other side of the world. That's where my thought was, having nothing to do with dreams or people's lives. It's just that for a lot of people in the world, they're programmed to think that I go to sleep now, my world has stopped, so everybody else's has. And it's just a way of thinking because that's how our programming has been. So I looked at that sentence of about 6 or 8 words, very simple with a comma in the middle and a period at the end, just a statement. How much conversation that those words, the direction that it went, which was not my intent. And so later on, the moderator made a statement to me when I had replied, I was joking about another little short statement. And they were a little miffed about do you think I'm in a joking mood or this is a joking matter? And then they made a comment that, that if I wanted to be a comedian, to start my own YouTube channel and to go on the road and have a show. Well, I used to be a traveling puppeteer and storyteller for a long time, like for 30 years kind of thing, long time. Actor on community theater here in South Georgia, in Tampa, some Tallahassee, Florida. Yes, okay. I have done things and a lot of comedy, but I was not in any way trying to be humorous, only lighthearted. And I think there's a big difference because I wasn't trying to tell a joke, but I was trying to be lighthearted. And this person, I'm had the flu, was not feeling well, doesn't really know me. I have been there in their chat before, so I wasn't a stranger. And I always use my name. I don't use, Chuck 22. I use David Null. That's my name. In this day and age, as a puppeteer and storyteller, I went by David Null. And if I'm going to be truthful and want to speak with someone, why would I come up with a handle? I want you to know me for who I am. My name is David Null. I'm pleased to meet you. Let's have a conversation. Now, so it's come to me in my shamanic journey in this life that 2018 for me, because I used to be able to communicate so well in the past as a storyteller. The stories that I told made a difference. Kids would come back and want me to tell them over and over again. And a lot of my stories had, you know, a meaning behind them. You know, yeah, okay, it was hidden, but it was there. You know, if you're going to say bad words to somebody, it hurts their feelings. I mean, but I did a lot of fun with chases and things with the marionette puppets that I did. Now, so for me, my guardian angel, my spirit guide, whatever you want to call it, my calling has been for this year to try to communicate to people. And I'm guilty of this. Trust me. Jumping to the gun, letting my mouth speak before I could even begin to think. And things would come out of my mouth that in less than 5 minutes I would regret. And so it has been a long journey for me in my mouth to learn how to speak off the cuff without being angry or trying to I want to make sure that what I say is taken the way I mean it. Like for the statement I made earlier in with this chat. I meant no harm. And I was not trying to be humorous or a jackass or a smartass, just light-hearted. And the person took it the absolute 180 degrees out of where I was even trying to project my thought. So as hard as I was trying to project lightheartedness, deep breath, this person doesn't feel well, just a little bit of lightheartedness. And instead, this person took it the exact opposite. Now, here's the thing. This person's been under attack by a lot of jackasses. And they have made remarks in short little statements like their comment to me last night was, how am I supposed to know you were joking? Well, maybe by my other posts and that I was trying to be lighthearted with other people in the chat. So in a way, this person was butting into the chat and wasn't paying attention to our mood in the chat. Now, I'm not placing blame. I'm saying this is a situation. And so my intent was of the best I could muster at the time to help this person feel lighter in a spirit. And instead, somehow, it got twisted up 180 degrees. Trust me, I have sent this person prayers for getting over the flu and for feeling better, because that has a lot to do with how you literally read into things. Now, I am so guilty of reading the wrong thing, whether it be in a chat or an email or something like that. And so I try to be very careful, because I've worked with some high-end stuff in a Fortune 500 company as a contract engineer for a Fortune 500 company. And I've met with people in Ford, Chrysler, Nissan, Honda, these big corporations, car companies. I've met with their engineers and sat, nose to nose and toe to toe on designs and things. And I had to learn how to communicate. And it was difficult for me sometimes, because a stupid idea is a stupid idea. And someone with a higher education should know better. And I had difficulty concealing my feeling about how stupid some of these engineers from Ford and Chrysler could be. Another story for another day. My point to this is, though, that I learned how to rephrase what I said. I learned how to make sure that I left my sentence with a positive rather than a negative. Like, this is just an off the cuff, for example. It was really nice to meet you. Don't forget to email me. So in that sentence, it's nice to meet you. Don't forget to email me. The brain hears nice to meet you. Don't forget me, which in a weird kind of way is a negative. Like, wait a minute. The don't in the sentence kind of negates the whole sentence. I know it sounds weird and it's a little goofy, and I wasn't quite prepared for a literal talk about this. But I do have a I don't know. I think it's probably backwards. I can't read it that way. This is an example of a sentence, okay? Be careful riding your bike, but don't forget to wear your helmet. By saying, but don't, you're saying, don't be careful. And then you're saying, forget your helmet. I bring this up because a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in almost 40 years, literally 40 years, had spoken to a few times, emailed a few times. His major at the college in Carrollton, West Georgia College, I can't remember. Anyway, it is in Carrollton, Georgia. And his major was in linguistics, and it had to do with putting a negative where it didn't need to be in a sentence. Like, be careful riding your bike, but don't forget to wear your helmet. Now, most of us don't think there's anything wrong with that. Most of us don't think that's wrong. Well, that's okay, because I meant that. I didn't put a positive and then a negative behind it. Bear with me for a second. So for 40 years, he went back to his 40th reunion and stopped by to see me down here in South Georgia on his way to Tampa. And he was telling me about how all of his classmates and there at the college and everything, after all this reunion and professors and so forth, they discussed how their work over these last 40 years, whether it had progressed or not. And the weird thing is that linguistically speaking, things got really, really good after, like, in the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s. And then somehow our language and our linguistics, how we use our words, terminology and things, has changed so drastically that all of the positive progress that we had made with our language it's like back where it was. Because the internet is a good thing. However, I've noticed that on some YouTube channels, for example, I'm not placing blame. This is just fact, okay? Now, what's going on is that someone will look at a word and okay, I'll use one, and it's the constellation Orion. Orion. Now, I studied astronomy and astrology, more astronomy, with telescopes and the whole 9 yards, because I wanted to be an astronomer until I had my head banged and my memory got mixed up. And I just became an amateur astronomer. I don't need a degree to look at the stars or to read a chart or to use a telescope. Okay. So, and where are you going to get a job? Right. So, and having a family and feeding everybody was more important. Now, so I was speaking with someone and they didn't write it. We were actually speaking to one another. And they said, "Oh, yeah, I love watching the constellation Orion." And I was like, "What?" "You know the one, the hunter, Orion." And I was like, "No, what are you speaking of?" And, "Oh, you know the one, and it's near Gemini and named a star." And I went, "You mean Orion?" "No, Orion." Now, in growing up, I'm not placing blame. In growing up, language was such that everybody learned how to look at the little U's and the dashes and everything in the words in the dictionaries. And we learned how to go short U, long U, short A, long A, as in 8 or at versus the U over the A or the dash over the A. I don't think folks know this anymore. In the last 20 years, that has disappeared. And what has replaced it is, rather than having all of the, I want to say mainstream media, because back in the day it was CBS and NBC, radio and TV. We didn't get anything else back then. Black and white, by the way. So there, how a word was pronounced that way all over the world. If there was somebody speaking English, now the Brits and the Australians, they had their way of, speaking about the bonnet, where we speak about the hood, or or the trunk, actually, maybe. Or, no, the bonnet is the, never mind. My point is, and how they emphasize, an A or an IE situation. So the linguistics has changed. Now, regardless of all that, but if you're having a conversation with somebody who's in their 60s, like I am, and they've been used to hearing certain words pronounced the same way for 60 odd years, you have to question why somebody who is not even 1/3 your age decides to start using a particular word incorrectly, as compared to how everybody else has been using it for the last 65 years, or actually longer. So the new kids on the block with the internet are now changing how words are pronounced. Now, I want to blame it, and I'm not talking about the culture, but I'm speaking about the educational system. No education. It is a system. When they brought up this crazy notion years ago, back about eubonics, and when they brought eubonics into the linguistics of our society, that's when things started getting twisted up. That's when Orion became Orion. That's when Uranus became Uranus. That's when Halley's Comet became Halley's Comet. I mean, and it's not Mandela effect, because those of my generation who went to had the same sort of educational opportunities. Okay, public schools were better back then than they are now. I'm sorry, but they're trying to cram too much information in what they think is important, and not enough information in the things that really are important. Now, Going back to words. So in our linguistics that has changed, and it has been since my granddaughters, because my daughter, who's in her mid-40s, uses terminology and speaks in Midwestern style, but pronounces words without any special training now. I'm just saying, it's her age group, okay? But her kids, my granddaughters, well, and grandchildren, have their language has been twisted. So from my generation to my daughters, and now my grandchildren, and my great grandchildren aren't old enough to speak yet, so almost. But with all the slang and everything going on these days, and the mispronunciation of words, our language and linguistics has gotten really kind of skewed up. Okay. Now, with that said, I want to bring this back around to putting a negative in what you might think is a positive statement. Be careful riding your bike, but don't forget to wear your helmet. Now, a simple solution to this is just using a different word. Instead of don't forget, you say, so remember to wear your helmet. There are so many don't words. I'd really like to go, but I don't know. I mean, if you stop and think about how you speak, if you listen to yourself talk, you might be surprised at how many don'ts, nots, ain'ts, whatever. And I'm not saying that you can't use the word don't or not or isn't or, no, that's not my point. My point is how you use it and where. Oh, Dave, you're just crazy. Yeah, but this is prompting, you see, there's magic in words. Sorry, but it is. And even physics are starting to prove that spoken word, even written word, the action of writing it, the thought process is putting it into the universe. So I want the things that I say. Now, see, I was going to say something else right there. I was going to say, I don't want people to think the wrong thing. See, I started out with a negative. So rather than say that, I caught myself. And what I want to say is, I want people to be able to understand me. And I want all of us to understand each other. Because when we misunderstand each other, see, I could have used a different word instead of misunderstand. I could have said, but if we don't think, see, I could have used the word don't in there. So in our linguistics and in our language, by just changing a simple word here or there, using a slightly different phraseology, we change a potentially negative thought, a don't or won't or can't or whatever, into the positive statement we actually wanted. We want you to remember to wear your helmet. And we do want you to be careful riding your bike. I'm just using my example sample here. Now, I wrote this down a couple of days ago thinking I was going to get on sooner. And my note here to myself is 2 negatives, or what I like to call this a non-statement. Because by saying don't forget, the use of the word don't puts that negative into a positive statement. I know the brain hears things weirdly. And the studies they've been doing on this are 40 years old, okay? And the studies are showing when we do the correct things, with how we use our words, it has a more positive effect on us rather than making it a non-statement. In other words, to me, don't is a negative. Don't do that. Oh, okay. Rather than go ahead, do this. By using the word negative, to me, it infers even more negativism in the statement I'm trying to make. And I want to keep my statement as positive as possible. So, okay, a little bit of good morning humor. And, it's 8:45 almost, and I haven't been to sleep, and which is a good thing because I've been sleeping for 4 days, and I guess I'm a little hyper at the moment. So I like to use the statement that if you use a don't or something in the middle of a sentence, that's more of a non-statement because it's really not a negative like, oh, but but it ain't positive as you wanted it to be. So I use my term, non-statement. So you want to make your statement a positive one. So you just change a word or two. It negates the positive original statements if you use don't or something in the middle of a sentence. Now, I have found this to be true myself. However, after speaking with my friend and after him going to his 40th class reunion at the college, and I can't remember the name of the like Psychology 101 or something. I can't remember what his major, the name of it is. However, it's the non-statement one for me. So let us try to use positive statements as much and everywhere as we possibly can. And I'm not talking about being a wimp or, all I'm saying is rephrase what you wish to say. Just rephrase it. And I'm telling you, once you become aware of it, it's like, wait a minute, as things come out my mouth, I go, excuse me, let me rephrase that. No one's ever gotten mad at me by saying, excuse me, let me rephrase that. Because that stops whatever thought that I had begun there. And they go, what? Oh, stop. That's what I want. I want the negativism of the thought or the non-statement to stop right there. If I wish to warn somebody, then I will say, I'm warning you, please stay away from the water. Rather than don't go near the water, which ends up being a non-statement. So if you say, please stay away from the water, rather than please don't go near, means the same thing. However, by don't go, that is that non-statement particle. I know this is really far-fetched, but I practiced a similar technique in 1974. 1974. And it was called Try Another Way. And at the time, there was a VH tapes on it. And because I was a teacher of the handicapped, both mentally, physically, when someone has bad, here we go. It was always cerebral palsy to me. Now they're calling it cerebral palsy. Okay, fine. I get it. But it was always cerebral palsy to us growing up. And I had folks who had cerebral palsy. But as a massage therapist for young children with, crunched up muscles and everything, It was also part of the motor training for them to learn how to pick up a lighter or an ink pen or whatever it was, or a cup, how to hold on to a cup. Okay. So there was always that, well, Mr. No, there was this beautiful young girl, and I'm mimicking her, but not mocking her because she had a lovely voice. She would go, Mr. No. She had a little like a lisp type thing. Mr. No, I can't open all my fingers. What do I do? Mr. No, I can't do that. And I would say, Miss Lisa, hang on. We're going to try another way. And she, I can't hold my cup. And it would frustrate her. And it was just a little baby plastic cup. And this child was 10, 11, 12 at the time and had all the motor skills and strength to be able to hold up a small plastic cup. And she couldn't do it, and it frustrated her to death. Because she wasn't stupid. She was handicapped, okay? So it was my job to teach her another way. Oh, telephone. I don't know anybody in Philadelphia, PA, do you? And so try another way. And instead of saying, oh, don't do it that way, which was a negative right away, you would say, try another way. Well, Mr. I can't. Try another way. So we'd try with 2 fingers, and then we'd try it this way. And I got a different cup for her, and we modified this. Well, then I started practicing with her. Okay, your hands need this type of training every day. So every morning before she had her breakfast, the teachers and the teachers' aides would help her loosen her fingers. Because after all night long of being like this, she couldn't hold her cup. But when the teachers relaxed her fingers, put a warm towel on her hands to open up the muscles a little bit, and, you know, they gave her a ball and put her a little soft ball, you know, put in her hands while they were bringing her breakfast. Her hands relaxed enough to where she could pick up the cup. So we had to try another way. And it took weeks. It took, I think, a couple of months, actually, before we hit the right combination. I was trying different things, and what I wasn't really doing was watching her. And one day, a psychologist friend of mine, who's passed now, pulled me over to the side nice and gently and said, David, you're thinking like a mechanic, which I am, engineer. She goes, you need to watch and observe the mechanics of your patient. Now, I was only in my 20s, okay? I was really young. So with this training, I thought, So I sat down and watched her. I got there in the mornings. Actually, on one of the bus routes, I picked her up in the morning. So those mornings, I would actually bring a little softball or something, and she would actually be working with her hands before she got to school, which was even more better. So, but I had not observed the initial problem, which is what's wrong with a lot of our medical profession today. They're treating symptoms, and they're not treating the issues. I'm a prime example. They damn near killed me with medicines, trying to cure me, when what I needed was something totally different. Now, to wrap up with the words, and I'm going to stick to that subject. Words are so important in how we use them. I would hope that anybody who watches this or listens to this will get the understanding that if you're listening to me, number one, you're going to go, wait a minute, maybe he's got a point. And that's my point. Maybe I do have a point. Now, after all these years of trial and error, of speaking with people, of using language, writing emails, reports to engineers and bosses and corporate junkie blunks and whatever. And it's important for us to stop calling each other names. Like, that one of the things that I dislike about Alex Jones is not the news that he gives, but how he gives it. Okay. Oh, those libtard, blah, blah, snowflake, blah. Give me the news. Give me the news. Quit calling anybody names. Stop with the name calling. Okay. The Democratic Party, for whatever they are, good or bad, just call them that. Period. Okay. The idiot Democratic Party, okay, well, what we should do is we should make statements as the things the Democrats do are idiotic, rather than calling all Democrats idiots. Okay, that's part of my point. How do we use our language? That's how we use our language. You say, those Democrats can do some idiotic things. Or they got some folk in there that they got our screw loosed. You don't say all Democrats have their screws loosed. Or just like I used to say all Republicans were bad, because every Republican that I ever met up to a certain point were scumbags. Okay. I hadn't met a good Republican. And then I did. And then I found out that my, quote, Democratic buddies were worse than the Republicans. Another story on politics. But our use of language, libtard, freak, geek, blah, blah, snowflake, stop it. Now, boomer, okay, I'm a baby boomer. It is what it is. A millennial, they are what they are. But stop with the snowflake stuff. Stop with the libtard. Stop with the left, right, extreme, blah, 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 with Marxist, Nazi. Stop it already. Stop calling people names. You're making it worse. I'm not saying you got to agree with them. I'm just saying, stop calling them names. When people are going to call, well, Dave, you got to call them what they are. Well, but does it say on their driver's license, Nazi? No, they might act like a Nazi. How many Nazis do you know? So they're young folks these days, they ain't got a clue what a Nazi is, damn Nazi, And somebody tried to call me on something yesterday, and I taught sign language. Now, I can't remember all my signs because of my brain injury. But this was I love you. Thumb, little finger. And somebody was trying to tell me that this sign with these two fingers up, the horn sign, is I love you. Sorry, you need to check I even hate to do it that long. This is the goat sign, the goat head sign. That's the Baphomet sign. That's the devil sign. And for folks who are going around doing like that, thinking that they're doing this, sorry, you got the wrong one. Now, before you go making claims about calling me an idiot and a snake eating blah, 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 you should check my credentials. And you should check the handbook on hand signs. It will show you this, not the other one. Check out what all the other folks are doing with the devil signs. This looks like horns. This doesn't. Big difference. So, how we act, who we calling each other, and our intent. Now, I got to say, and I'm going to wrap this up, I was astounded at the fact that all of the good intentions that I had with writing what I did in the chat and thinking a positive thought with it, thinking a light-hearted thought when I wrote it, that was enough. I am reminded every day that things that we write, what we may be so careful in writing out, typing out, texting, might not be received the same way on the other end. It may not have the impact, or it may have the wrong impact that you had originally intended. I am so guilty of that. However, the other person really shouldn't have went there. And I don't mean my chat last night, but still, that was not, they still went in another direction that I wasn't there. But my words put other people's minds there with the small statement that I made. And I even made a statement about that. I said, wow, how interesting such a small statement would open up so many different avenues of discussion. And it did. I was proud for that. But I wasn't proud of the fact that, see, I've used but. I wasn't. See, I caught myself right there. But I found that I was lacking in emotion when they took my written text in the wrong way. I was disheartened because my full intent was actually opposite. So we must be careful. Now, being careful to the point of being picky and, oh, I can't say that. No, if you said something and it doesn't, it's okay. What you need to do is start catching yourself. If you listen to how you're putting it out, is this really positive, or am I putting a non-positive statement on something? A non-statement versus a positive negative, okay? And also, one thing that we can just surely all do, stop calling each other names. I mean, I'm finding out in this world of quantum physics, because our spoken word pushes out ions and atoms and protons, neutrons, and stuff we don't know about. Quarks, quantums, you know. That with the words that we speak, the atoms and the air and everything that comes out of our mouth and pushes it out into the universe has energy attached to it. And if there's nothing to like catch it, it just keeps going. So if there's a negative vibration in what you speak, that negative vibration keeps going. So if you're calling people libtards and that freaking idiot, if you're at it all the time, think of the little negative vibrations that are going out everywhere, you know, everywhere. And unless it hits a wall or somewhere, it literally will go out into space forever. And it, not just the sound, the vibration, something you can't see. So if we speak as much as positive as we possibly can, trying to stay away from the non-type words or phrases, then our chances of changing the entire vibration of ourselves and the people closest around us, if there are any, and if there's anybody listening on the other side of the planet. Now, one of the arguments, their argument, not mine. They were complaining that, you know, nobody watched their YouTubes, you know, and, oh, my numbers are, you know, somebody can, you know, chase a cat around the room and you know, and they'll get 1 million hits and I can't get 25. Well, but you know what? Those 1 million hits are nothing, especially if you're only want to watch a cat run around on the floor. That's humor. If you got 25 people, though, who watched your program and listened to what you had to say, those 25 people are worth 1 million. in my book. Now, I had issues with that a couple of years ago, and my spirit guide has told me flat out, and it's also in the Bible, it's also in other studies. If you speak with one person, and you don't have to change their mind, but if you give them another opportunity, another thought, another point of view, to where they just go, don't have to agree, but they just go, you might have changed their life. If they had not heard your point of view, not that I'm right, I'm just saying, check it out. We all have a point of view. I've listened to some people, and for 10 years, you're a piece of calling them names, and then 10 years later, go, man, I want to apologize. Boy, what you said 10 years ago, I was just so flighty. I thought I knew what I was talking about. And at the same time, I've had people come up to me 10 years later and go, Mr. Dave, man, you were right 10 years ago. I wish I'd listened to you, you know? Not that I'm a brainiac, but there are certain things that are just pay attention. Basically, pay attention to your surroundings. Become part of your surroundings, you know? And try to look at the madness for what it is. It's madness. If these people are trying to shove something down your throat, you need to just put your hand and go, I'm sorry, but I do not consent. I do not want any more of what you're trying to shove down my throat. I need to take a break and chug a little bit of water or something like that. So words, we've got, please, if you watch this video, yes, like, share, and all that, but it ain't about the numbers for me. It's about, do you get the message? And the message is just be kind, compassionate, caring, loving from your heart. We got to stop thinking with the brain, because when we let our brain do our talking, we messed it up. If we let our heart do the talking, very seldom do we ever get into fights and arguments and things. Because when we discuss our passion and use our brains, it comes out as anger and forceful, and you meant what I... No, that's not what I meant. I'm sorry, but you took it wrong. You've had a bad day, and it's okay. Calm down, smoke a cigarette, whatever, take a deep breath. No, that's not what I meant. This is what I meant. Okay? So people are too quick to jump. But it's the age in which we live. That must be what he meant by the words that he wrote or by what he said. No, shouldn't you ask me for clarification if you might think, what was that a cut? Was he dissing me? Was he trying to, was he putting me down? No, why don't you ask me? Maybe there's something that you just need clarification on. And to another person in a different chat, they were trying to understand something, and it was a reading or something, and they were trying to make, what does this mean? And I put in there, you're tired. Maybe you should read it in the morning. You'll have another point of view. Boy, they took offense to that one. Well, I can read it now. Well, yeah, you can. But when you have rest and your brain has had a chance to chill out from whatever went wrong in your day-to-day, you will interpret that card to be totally different than what you're reading it now. And 10 minutes later, that same person said, I read this yesterday, and it had a different meaning than what it means now. Now, they didn't apologize to me for the, you don't know, I should point their finger at me. I was just trying to say, hey, you should read it 3 or 4 days later. You read it now, you read it tomorrow. If you're trying to figure out what this card means that you drew because you want to know a future event or something like that, you're looking for spiritual answers, then you just don't need to look at it once and put it down and go, well, that's it. No, because your frame of mind right now will change. Tomorrow, the next day, the energy's around you. You're in a better mood. Get up in the morning and read it. And then after a hard day, come home and read that thing again. And see if you get the same interpretation. Nah, you won't. There'll be something slightly changed. And that was all I was trying to say. But boy, you don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Dave. You trying to butt in and tell me what I need to. No, I'm not. I'm saying you should just read it again in the morning. That's all. Because they were even saying, I don't get this. I don't get that. They were just being frustrated and like beaten. I was like, put the card down, read it in the morning, take a chill pill. So I love you all. Dang, it says there's somebody on here. Holy mackerel. All right. Whoever you are. For some reason, my computer won't let me read the chat thing. I don't get it. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. But for you one viewer, I love you much. From my heart, my soul heart. And that's another thing to pass along to folks. Just don't say, yeah, oh, yeah, I love you. Yeah. Yeah, I care about you. Yeah. No. If you don't care about a person, say, I dislike you. Just say, have a wonderful day. And you can mean that, whether you like them or not, So you don't have to be in love with everybody, but you can give love from your heart, and you can give peace and compassion and kindness. And I'm hoping that if anything I've said in this little interim thingy here this morning will enlighten you to listen to how you speak. And don't jump in and correct folks, because they'll want to beat the hell out of you. Don't do that. You can do it gently, like, hey, this crazy old hippie on the internet the other day, try something out. I'm telling you, you will be shocked. I was. I'm still shocked at how we speak and what we put forth into the universe will come back to us. Oh, and I kind of lost the point a little earlier on, and I used to put myself down all the time. Dave, you're a piece of crap, you're a dumbhead. You know what? Hey, that's a no-no. You stupid shit. Whoops, sorry about that. No. Now, what I have changed is now, Dave, you should have known better. Or, Dave, you should have thought that over first. Or, Dave, but I quit calling myself names. Dumbass. Well, now you can say, now, Dave, that was a stupid move. And that would be a true statement. But I didn't call myself stupid. I called the move stupid. Words mean a lot. Our brains are listening all the time. So even when we speak to ourselves, or we're just playing around, or even to your spouse, and I know some folks that they call each other bitch and bastard and, you old ugly bastard. And they're joking. But by saying, oh, ugly bastard, it's still a negative. And I've been trying to teach folks, hey, maybe you shouldn't be saying it like that. You could pick something else to call them, that's a little bit more lighthearted or something, or whatever. But hey, you old bastard. Yeah. They know they're kidding, but the universe don't know they're kidding, because how it comes out of their mouth, and the fact that you old dirty bastard is not a positive statement. So with that, I say it's Tuesday morning, 10 after 9. Have a wonderful day. Be kind to one another and listen to your words. If somebody doesn't agree with you, just say, I appreciate your point of view. I do. And I got to go, man. You have a wonderful day. So with that said, y'all have a wonderful day. Peace out from the old hippie in South Georgia. I don't know where the off button is. Bye-bye.